This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the live national airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News. 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM listing nearest you. Plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80. Plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Whole bunch of stuff to get into today. Some NBA action, some noise coming out of Clipperland. We'll touch on that. Obviously, some football news, particularly with the retirement of Luke Kuechly. 28-year-old, seven-time Pro Bowl linebacker for the Carolina Panthers, has decided to call it a career, courtesy of a multitude of concussions he has suffered from throughout his career. We'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. But the first order of business is that another head has rolled, figuratively speaking, of course, involving Major League Baseball. And this time it was very, very predictable. It was Alex Cora, the manager, the now former manager of the Boston Red Sox. Now, for those of you who did not listen to this show yesterday, Mr. Jeff Passan, MLB insider extraordinaire for the family, for ESPN, came on the show to highlight for us and crystallize why, indeed, A.J. Hinch, the manager for the Houston Astros, along with Jeff Luhnow, the general manager for the Houston Astros, were both suspended by the league, Commissioner Rob Manfred, for a year involving this sign stealing scandal. In Major League Baseball. They were suspended for the year. An hour later, after the news came down, Monday afternoon, 3 p.m., hours before the national championship game between LSU and Clemson took place at the Mercedes-Benz Dome in New Orleans, Louisiana. Hours before that game. 1 hour after the commissioner came down with his ruling, the owner for the Houston Astros, Mr. Jim Crane, fired his general manager and his manager. In the report, 9 pages long, by Rob Manfred, I believe he mentioned Alex Cora's name about 11 times. And so you had guys like Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe and others calling for Alex Cora to be fired, if not to step down immediately. And within a matter of hours, the Boston Red Sox had announced that they had mutually parted ways. Now, y'all can believe that if y'all want to. The man was fired. Let's just call it what it is. The man was fired. You know, you want him to save face. He's a good guy. You like him. You certainly don't want to cast additional aspersions upon him. You want him to go on, live his life. He was a member of the Red Sox family. He delivered you a World Series. You're incredibly happy about that. You have a strong level of affection for him. So you didn't want to just put him out there on Front Street and announce that he was fired. Mr. Crane didn't give a damn. Owner for the Houston Astros didn't give a damn. He said, hell with you both, you fired. Both of you. All right? Having said all of that, let's be clear. It was fair. A.J. Hinch should have been fired. He was a manager. According to him, he did not participate, but as he admitted in his mea culpa of a letter, the bottom line is he knew about it and did nothing about it. The GM, Jeff Luhnow, tries to claim he didn't know much about it. Nobody trying to hear that. Your bench coach at the time with the Houston Astros was Alex Cora. Not only did he have something to do with implementing technological devices out in center field and ultimately having a screen near the dugout where you could literally see the signs that catchers were giving pitches, etc. And you were able to give batters a head up on what actual pitch was coming because you would pound a trash can. And it would give them an indication of what pitch to look for, what pitch to avoid. And ultimately, because those signs were being stolen, you had to screen the monitor up at the dugout. Alex Cora, he was dimed out by the GM. GM tried to say he ain't got nothing to do with me. It was the bench coach and employees, subordinates. He knew nothing. But Commissioner Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball said, no. The buck does stop with you. Stop that. Stop that. Now, there are those out there, and I consider you all to be idiots, who think this way. Oh, the owner must have known. Not necessarily true. No. You the owner, you upstairs, man. You watching the game. You ain't paying attention to that. those idiosyncrasies like that, that's not what you're doing. Now, once the commissioner's office sent you a letter, you became aware of it then. But the reality is, prior to that, why would an owner be paying attention to something like that? I totally believe Mr. Crane had little to no knowledge about this, at least initially. Now, once the letter came from Major League Baseball, you could have done something about it. The letter came from Major League Baseball in September of 2017. You in the World Series that October, a month later. Clearly, you were still doing it. As Bill Plaschke for the Los Angeles Times pointed out in his tremendous column yesterday. Because what did he say? He said, wait a minute. This ace staff that we had, including Clayton Kershaw, including Brandon Morrow, including Yu Darvish and the crew. This staff suddenly over a 2-game stretch at Minute Maid Park gave up 18 runs or 26 hits and 8 and 6 home runs. How the hell that happened? So we understand that clearly folks weren't listening. And Alex Cora was your bench coach who instigated this, according to the report. Basically, his name is mentioned so much, you have no choice but to believe that. And so looking at it from that perspective, it was a foregone conclusion that this man's career in Boston was going to be over. It's the right decision. Now, for those of you that may not understand, Alex Cora is a lifer. He's been around baseball a long time. He's got a whole bunch of friends in the baseball community. And all of them have spoken out against him. Eduardo Perez and Glanville and a host of other commentators. They've spoken out against him. CeCe Sabathia talked about what might have been because at that age he could have captured the championship that late in his career. Mark Teixeira ain't stopping there. Now he's talking about how Carlos Beltran, who was a player on the squad for the Houston Astros in 2017, who immediately retired upon winning that World Series, who's now the manager of the New York Mets. Ladies and gentlemen, he's next on the hit list. Now, am I advocating that he get fired? No, because we don't have any proof of what the extent of his involvement was in that sign stealing scandal. But I will tell you this, there needs to be an investigation. And if that investigation is still ongoing or if that investigation has concluded, I want to hear Carlos Beltran. I need to hear complete exoneration. Otherwise, he should be fired too. He should be fired too. I mean, think about it, y'all. I mean, I can't believe I missed the boat on this initially because we didn't have all the information. I just thought 50-game suspension. Oh, please, you're stealing sign. What's the big deal? It's baseball. Everything happens in baseball. What's the problem? I didn't know that it was this level of premeditation. I didn't know that equipment was installed and you had a monitor in the dugout and you pounding on trash cans to feed batters about what pitches to avoid. What pitches were coming? You're trying to figure out what signs are being put out there. You're trying to figure out what pitches are coming a batter's way. You're trying to outsmart the opposition with your mind games. That's entirely different. That's gamesmanship. That's the sport. But to sit up there and to gain a technological advantage that you knew were illegal was illegal. To do that is egregious. And for Alex Cora to do it, who, by the way, has a brother in Major League Baseball, you brought shame to yourself. You brought shame to your family. You brought shame to the sport. How could you do that? You played in this sport. These are your brothers. Ladies and gentlemen, when you just think about it, pick your chosen profession. People who are near to dear and dear to you, even in the heat of competition, you backdoored them by cheating your way to the top. How do you think that's cool? How do you think that's okay? That's what Alex Cora did. There's no way around this. There's no way around this. I feel sorry because listen, I don't enjoy anybody losing their job. But when you talk about Alex Cora, listen, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. You think he's going to get another job in baseball? How could he? He hasn't even been suspended yet by Major League Baseball, and the Red Sox still fired him because they knew they wouldn't be able to have this hanging over their shoulders, over their head. They knew what was coming. He had to go. And chances are, if we had to bet our money right now, we'd probably think Carlos Beltran's about to be fired. He's the new manager for the New York Mets. Ain't even had spring training yet. And I'm telling you, he's probably going to get fired. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to see just managers and general managers suffering in all of this. Go ahead and watch the tapes when the Houston Astros was going against the White Sox in the regular season or the postseason. I think it's regular season. Watch them in the postseason against the Dodgers. Watch that pounding of that trash can. Somebody throws a fastball, you hear nothing. Somebody throws a breaking ball, all of a sudden you hear the pounding of that trash can, letting you know a breaking ball was coming. And I'm just figuratively speaking. I don't know whether it was a breaking ball or a slide or whatever. The point is, whenever a particular pitch was coming your way, they'd pound the trash can, giving a batter an indication to lay off that pitch or to anticipate it coming and swinging if it's appropriate. Let me ask y'all a question. How could something like that happen and the players not be complicit? The players most certainly were complicit in all of this. The players most certainly knew what was going on. I don't know how many players, but some of them clearly knew. Was one of them Carlos Beltran? Was it? We don't know. One can surmise, one can guess, one could assume. But there is no question. Some of those players for the Houston Astros was involved in this scandal. Was it Bregman? Was it Correa? Was it Altuve? We don't know. We honestly do not know. But to me, any player that you found to have been involved in all of this, they need to suffer an egregious consequence themselves. The players were complicit, y'all. And you know what makes this even worse? I want you to think for a second. And this is why I'm a total proponent of Lou Now and A.J. Hinch getting fired. I don't know them individually. I'm not casting any aspersions on them as human beings. I'm talking about their actions and what their actions warrant. Do y'all know that long before 3 consecutive years that the Houston Astros was going to the postseason, winning a World Series, losing another, losing in the postseason, winning over 100 games? Do you have any idea how awful the Houston Astros were? Do any of y'all have that any idea? I want to put this in its proper perspective because I don't think people are appreciating the severity of this to the fans in Houston, Texas. They got screwed over here. Let me count the ways. The Houston Astros over the last 3 years have won 100, 103, and 107 games over the last 3 years. 2 years before that, they made the postseason, winning 86 games, 86 and 76. Ladies and gentlemen, the 4 years before that, they lost 106 games in 2011, 107 in 2012, 111 in 2013, 92 in 2014. They gave new meaning to tanking. They accumulated draft picks because of that tanking. They sat up there and actually charged the paying customers in Houston showing up to Minute Maid Park to see an atrocity of a baseball team. 4 years. They took your money. They gave you garbage in return. And they said it was all for the sole express purpose, based on analytics and beyond. We're gearing for a new day. And then we learn that that day arrives. Courtesy of you cheating, courtesy of you engaging in such flagrant premeditation that it sickened the stomachs of the Major League Baseball office and Commissioner Rob Manfred? So sickening and egregious that the owner for the Houston Astros fired you an hour after the ruling came down? An hour, not a day, not 24 hours, 1 hour. You were fired. The GM and the manager. And Alex Correa, you're in Houston at the time. You go to Boston and you do this? And ladies and gentlemen, what about the victims? Let me tell you who the victims are. We can point to the Dodgers. The Dodgers are the biggest victims because they lost both World Series. And chances are Houston and Boston cheated their way to that title. The Yankees are the other because both teams went against the Yankees in the postseason. And that's what did them in. The Bronx Bombers show up and can't get it done. CeCe Sabathia spoke about that. We all know. This is some egregious stuff, man. And let me tell you something. After this, let me ask y'all a question out there. If we're not going to sit up there and hold players accountable for this, we just going to look to the managers, right? We're not going to hold the players accountable for this. Then guess what I want? I want Pete Rose reinstated in baseball now. Right now. If you're not going to hold players accountable and find out who is complicit in all of this from a player's perspective, I want Pete Rose reinstated in Major League Baseball, effective immediately. Pete Rose gambled on baseball as a manager. And if you don't want to reinstate Pete Rose in baseball, at least allow him to be in the Hall of Fame. Because there's no evidence of any kind of salacious or incendiary behavior or underhandedness going on in a playing career of Pete Rose. All-time hits lead, over 4,000 hits. The greatest nickname in the history of all of sports, Charlie Hustle. We ain't talking Air Jordan. We ain't talking Chocolate Thunder. We ain't talking none of that Mr. October. No, Charlie Hustle. You were a star because you hustled. Because you played every game like it was your last. That's why you were a star. You're Pete Rose. You don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? The Hall of Fame. With your playing career. With no evidence whatsoever that you had done anything, gambling or otherwise, while playing. And you don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but these dudes go unpunished? These dudes? Really? When managers are getting fired, when general managers are getting fired, when there's more stuff coming down the pike, the stain that this has brought to the sport of baseball. What did Cincinnati win when Pete Rose was a manager? We are sitting here right now at this particular moment in time debating whether or not 2 of the last 3 champions are even legitimate. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Black Sox Scandal Part 2. Or 2.0. That's the Black Sox Scandal 2.0. That fix involved the World Series. A World Series. My personal baseball encyclopedia. My brother Jeff Brown in California, LA, listening to me right now. Jeff, text me. Am I lying? Am I lying? This is the World Series we're talking about here. This ain't some damn game in April. It don't involve some damn casino in August. This is October. This is the Fall Classic. There's a championship on the line. And y'all were pulling this nonsense? When did Pete Rose do that? When that happened? I mean, you got to be kidding me. You that hard up for recognition that you will walk around sticking out your chest, proud to be called the champion, knowing you cut corners to pull it off? If that ain't the complete antithesis of what sports and competition on the highest level is supposed to be all about, I don't know what is. This is some egregious nonsense. It's shameful. World Series, y'all. The Dodgers. You trying to tell me one of those series they couldn't have ended that 30-year drought? They ain't won a World Series since 1988. You trying to tell me Yankees couldn't have won one of those series? I don't enjoy talking about somebody deserving to be fired. I take no pleasure in that. I'm a human being first. But you can't do this. A.J. Hinch, shame on you. Because you cracked the screen twice, according to Jeff Passan, because you wanted no part of it. You the damn manager. You could have stopped this. But I saw you celebrating when y'all won that chip, and you knew you didn't do it fairly. Jeff Lunau, you sitting there applauding subordinates, berating females in the media. You knew what the hell you had done. What you okayed. You can slice it any way you want to. Your hands are dirty. Alex Cora, you didn't just do it once. You did it twice. In 2017 and 2018. 2 titles on your resume. One as a bench coach, one as a manager, where you know you cheated. You proud of that? Puerto Ricans everywhere. Proud of Alex Cora. Because for the right reasons and fairness to him, his philanthropy cannot be denied. He loves his people, and he was tremendously contributable to their cause in the aftermath of how they got ravaged. How that island got ravaged years ago. We all know that. But we also know the folks there were incredibly proud of him because of what he accomplished. Ever think about how they're feeling now? And these players, they were complicit, ladies and gentlemen. They were absolutely, positively complicit. What the hell are you banging trash cans for if the players are paying no attention to it? Tim Kirk just said it on Get Up earlier this morning. Cal Ripken Jr., Tony Gwynn, they never wanted any signs. They never wanted a coach telling them about signs and tipping signs and all of this other stuff. It's me against you, baby. That's what it's all about. That's what makes the sports go round. These players for the Astros didn't do that. They took all the advantages. What makes them any better than Pete Rose? What makes them any better than the Black Sox scandal? I'm not satisfied. I want names of players that did this. I want to know who was complicit. And if one of them was Carlos Beltran, who retired after the 2017 World Series, not before, he should be fired as the manager of the New York Mets immediately. And any other player that's found to be guilty of this, they should be suspended for the year, since that's what A.J. Hinch and Lunau received from Major League Baseball. They should be suspended effective immediately for the entire 2020 season. Go to break.
This human resources professional is crushing it thanks to Kronos. And this is his hype song. You can fall back with the pack. I'm a leader pack.
I've got HR, payroll, talent, and time.
I'm on the top, I'm gonna rise up. Now we are
engaging all the best people.
Kronos, HR solutions for the modern workforce. Learn more at kronos.com/HR swagger.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
You must be going blind. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, is presented by Progressive Insurance, with insurance for cars, homes, boats, and motorcycles, RVs, commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. Lots of stuff to get into right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. I'm dead serious with some of the stuff that I'm talking about. I'm dead serious about it. Because to me, you just can't get around it. You really, really can't. We'll go to the phones and please get this read off my screen, Kat, John, please. Because it's not moving. Having some technical difficulties here. Having to communicate with my staff over the air. I apologize for that. Thank you. Here's the deal. I'm not going to go as far as my boy Jeff wants to go. He thinks that the Astros shouldn't be allowed to play until game number 51 of the regular season. The first 50 games, they should have to forfeit and they should have to wait to play. So play 2 months later. You don't deserve it. My attitude is that would make the fans suffer, and they didn't do anything to deserve this. But the belief is everybody had to know. No, that's not true. Baseball is a relatively sophisticated game at times. Unless you're completely enthralled with it, the way my boy Jeff is, there's certain things you're not going to know. Certain things you're not going to know. You're not going to hear the pounding of a trash can and think, I watched the games. I heard the pounding of the trash can. I didn't think anything of it. I wasn't thinking about it. Who would have thought that was a way to steal signs? Who would have thought that? So you got that as a problem. But I tell you what I would do. In Major League Baseball, my producer Jonathan Winthrop believes that Major League Baseball is waiting for the Mets to fire Carlos Beltran. I agree with John on this. Major League Baseball should hand down its punishment and let the Mets do what they feel is right. But you shouldn't punk out and avoid punishing Carlos Beltran, which I don't understand why it would be an issue. I really, really don't. If Major League Baseball can hand down a heavy hammer against A.J. Hinch and Jeff Luhnow, and why can't they do it with Carlos Beltran? There can only be one reason. Because at the time he was a player, and you're reticent about dealing with the Players Association. That's the only explanation I can think of. It's the only explanation. But I say to hell with all of that. I'm telling y'all right now, this is Black Sox Scandal 2.0. New millennium. And to me, if you're not going to punish any of these players, at the very least, induct Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame. Reinstate him, too. Don't disown him like this. At the very least. If you're going to let these players get away with this. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's go to Joseph. You're live with yours truly. What's up, Joe? Joseph, are you on the line? Going once, Joseph.
Yes, I am here.
Going
yes,
twice,
I'm
Joseph.
sorry, Beth. How are you?
All right. You're here. All right. Don't try that with
Hello,
me.
sir.
Be ready. Let's go.
I apologize, sir. Anyway, what do you think that the Astros' punishment is severe enough, and how does this affect your view on their championship?
In light of the information that has come out, I think the punishment is definitely severe enough in terms of the manager and the general manager because they lost their jobs, as well they should. I do think some punishment should come down upon the players. Let's find out who was complicit in all of this because it appears they were, and let's deal with them too. Outside of that, I think the World Series, listen, you can't give the World Series trophy to the Dodgers. That's ridiculous. But what you can do is take it from the Astros. We see it in the NCAA all the time. We see championships confiscated. We see trophies removed from universities and whatever. Why can't you remove the World Series trophy from the Houston Astros facility? It does not belong to you. Give it to us. You cheated. Why you can't do that? You can do that. You can certainly do that. I think that at the very least, that's what you should do. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Tony. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Tony?
Peace, Stephen A. Smith on
Tony.
This beautiful day. Hello.
What's up? You're live on the air. Go ahead, man.
All right, no problem. Hey, just a quick question. Do you think, with everything that's going on right now, two names that I'm not hearing right now, John Henry and Dave Dombrowski. I know Cora, throw him in there. Beltran, throw him in there. If Beltran, if he's caught up in it as well. But, I mean, they hired Dombrowski. He was 60 years old. They fired him after the championship. They were talking about that they wanted to transition to a more process-oriented, type of situation over there in Boston. But, I mean, it smells pretty fishy now looking back on it. Dave Dombrowski needs to be subpoenaed. They need to bring him up to the office and talk to him a bit.
We have. Well, you don't know that they haven't, and we have to go by what the report reveals. If Dombrowski was implicated in any of this, it stands to reason he would have been mentioned in a 9-page report. I don't know whether that's the case. I don't know the particulars. Jeff Passan enlightened us yesterday. Tim Kirkchin will continue to enlighten us all day, along with various other baseball aficionados, and you can listen to them talk it far more intelligently and informed than I can. But the bottom line is that this appears to be the situation. I mean, the bodies that are in the report, those are the people that you deal with. There's no way in hell that the players were not complicit. That's my biggest point. And oh, by the way, you know what I'm asking if I'm the Los Angeles Dodgers? If I'm the Los Angeles Dodgers, who were victims of this, you know who I have in my office today to have this conversation with?
Who's there?
Manager Dave Roberts. Manager Dave Roberts. What the hell were you doing when all of this was going on? You are an aficionado of baseball. You're a manager. You didn't pick up on that? Because let me assure you, the late Billy Martin, Earl of the Yankees, Earl Weaver of the Orioles, even a Tony La Russa, who, by the way, I mean, when you look at some of the stuff that he was associated with in terms of his players and what they were doing on his watch, you could obviously, you could have some question marks about him, but the man knows baseball. Bruce Bochy, okay, Lou Piniella, people like this. You trying to tell me if somebody was banging on a trash can every other pitch, they wouldn't have noticed? Dave Roberts, what the hell were you doing? Did you pick up on anything? Did you tell anybody? Did you bring it to anybody's attention? What'd you do? Because 2 World Series, we came up short against these guys. You didn't pick up on any of this. I wonder why. I'm asking that question. That's just me. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with more of your calls in a minute to close out the hour before my man Scott Van Pelt comes on the show to jumpstart hour number 2. By the way, it's time for some straight talk. The big wireless carriers try to wow you with big deals, but the savings are very little. With Straight Talk Wireless, you get the exact same networks as the big guys, but saving up to half the cost. Right now, you can get the unlimited plan with up to 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2 gigs for just $45 a month. No contract, no mystery fees, all with nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless, only at Walmart.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! 2020 is going to be your year, right? Join that gym, start that diet? Nah. How about getting out of that job and into a career? There are millions of unfilled cybersecurity positions in the U.S. right now, and My Computer Career is training people to help fill them. No IT experience or education? No problem. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. You could start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. mycomputercareer.edu. Also, tune into the ESPN Daily Podcast, bringing you a deep dive into a single story from one of ESPN's hundreds of reporters, presented by Indeed. Download, subscribe, and review ESPN Daily, available wherever you enjoy your podcast. 888-SAY-ESPN is 888-729-3776. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get to the callers and before I get to Scott Van Pelt to jumpstart album number 2, I want to remind y'all of something that I brought up when I got on the air Monday afternoon. This Friday will be my last show as host of the Stephen A. Smith Show here on ESPN Radio. I reached an agreement with ESPN, multi-year deal. I'll be here for years to come. And part of that deal involves me doing more work behind the scenes. Of course, I'll still be doing First Take. Of course, I'll still be all over the NBA. I'll even have my own NBA show on Wednesday nights from 7 to 7:30 whenever there's a 7:30 p.m. NBA game. Personally speaking, I wish I was doing more shows than that because all the games don't come on at 7:30. Some come on at 7 o'clock. Some come on later, and I'm only on when there's an NBA game at 7:30. So hopefully in the near future, I'll have more consistency because I love doing my NBA show. But I'll have a NBA show on Wednesdays, like I said, from 7 to 7:30 leading into that 7:30 NBA game. I'll still be doing First Take, and I'll be behind the scenes, executive producing and creating content, hopefully for ESPN Plus and Disney Plus and beyond. So that is the reason that I will not be hosting the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio or ESPN News any longer, although First Take will be a staple on the show. And, of course, I'll be calling in a lot just to visit and, just let y'all know I'm still around. But I want to thank my listeners from the bottom of my heart and give love to everybody for giving me love. I just wanted to say that. LJ, you're live with Stephen A. Only got a minute. Go ahead.
What's going on, Stephen A., man? I just wanted to congratulate you on your success. And thank you for taking my calls to help my platform and my media followings. And just to continue to push for us, man, as us young commentators in the league try to set an example as you do. And one more question. Will you be at the Laker game in Houston this Saturday night?
No, I will not because I have to be at the Conor McGregor fight.
Okay. Otherwise, well, hopefully I can beat you again in the future, chopping up basketball with you, man.
Oh, no. You'll see me. Houston's going to the playoffs. I'll be there. I'll be there. You'll catch me. Don't even worry about that. Well, all right, my man. Well. I appreciate the love. Thanks a lot, bro. Call back Friday. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll continue talking about this baseball fiasco involving Alex Cora, the Houston Astros, and how the NFL, this looks bad for the NFL too. Because when baseball is willing to act with a heftier hand than the National Football League, that is not a good look for the National Football League. Needless to say, we'll get into that later, but not before I talk to my man Scott Van Pelt. He's up next with you.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Come to hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Here with you over the national airways of ESPN Radio and ESPN News for the next hour or so. 888-SAY-ESPN is always the number to call. It's 888-729-3776. Straight Talk Wireless runs on the same 4G LTE networks for up to half the cost. Get the unlimited plan with up to 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2G for just $45 a month. No contract, Straight Talk Wireless, only at Walmart. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to be on the other side of the microphone right now. Usually this man is the one doing the interviewing and doing an outstanding job at that. Hosting Sports Centers in the evening, absolutely sensational Sports Center anchor, along with golf analyst and beyond. He just does it all for the family. It's my honor and privilege to talk to my man, my colleague, my buddy, the great one himself, Scott Van Pelt, is on the line with me right now. What's going on, big time? How are you, sir?
Man, I'm great. Things are good. A lot of exciting stuff's been going on my end of the world lately, and we're thankful for all of that, and always happy when we can cross paths. It is fun to be the guy on the other side of the guy of being asked the questions as opposed to asking you the questions. I enjoy this.
That's right. And I hope you continue to enjoy it because let's get right to it. Before I even get into some sports talk that we've been talking about, what is this I'm hearing about you with a new podcast that started yesterday, the SV Pod? Talk to me about that a little bit. I mean, you've got enough on your plate, buddy. What's going on with this?
Who are you really telling me I have enough on my plate? The man that has figured out a way to maximize his ability to be seen and heard across the airwaves and being brilliant in all regards. Look, you know what it is, and this is the truth. Radio and you do it all, right? You do TV, you do Sports Center, you do First Take, you do whatever. You're everywhere. But radio gives you the latitude, right, and the wiggle room to really go on something. And TV, man, like when you're doing Sports Center on a Wednesday ahead of the NBA, that time gets away from you quick. And, before you blink, you're just starting to get going, and then you're out of time. Well, a podcast is going to give me the room to go. And, I mean, there's no breaks. I don't have any commercial breaks. I don't have to do those radio resets reminding people who they're listening to, this, that, and the other thing. If I want to talk, I just go. And so the opportunity to get back into that space was exciting. And so we did our first yesterday. And I spoke to my guy, Tony Kornheiser, about the fact that Sports Center will be moving down to Washington, D.C. I'll be getting back home in August for football of next year. So we got to talk about that, which is exciting as well. But it's just fun to get back in a space where you have as much space as you want.
What can people expect from you when they listen to you do your podcast? I mean, everybody was listening to you when you were doing radio a few years ago because you have done it all. I want to know what you missed about it most. I know you just alluded to it, but I want to know if you could elaborate on what you missed about it most and what do you find yourself doing now with this podcast that you may not have done when you were hosting your own radio show a few years ago?
The best example I can give is it was really cool last year during the playoffs. We had Patrick Beverly come on. You know Patrick. His stories is awesome.
Yes, I do.
Came out the mud, as they say, right? Wasn't a 5-star guy. Didn't have a path that some others had, but he made it. And when we talked to him after he got got the bag and got that big contract, and we got going and we're talking for a few minutes, and I said, all right, my final question. And Patrick, he was offended. He was like, final question. He's like, man, I drove down out the hills to talk to you today. And I started laughing. I realized, 5 minutes, that's not worth it. That's not worth the drive. So I think what I want to do is really get into stuff. You start talking to Patrick where television doesn't allow us to talk about overseas, talk about being, maybe overlooked, slept on, however you want to put it, and really talk about getting to the point where he is now. He was a great example of somebody that we must have talked for 15, 20 minutes, but on Sports Center we got to maybe the best 5 or 6 minutes. Well, I want people to hear all of it, the goods, the bads, really exploring the conversation that you can have with someone that's really interesting like him. And maybe I'll talk to a musician. Maybe it's somebody that's totally off the beaten path. Maybe it's an actor. Maybe it's a musician. Maybe it's an author. I don't know. But podcasts give you that latitude to really talk to people that interest you, people who inspire you, that you can, keep your listener company when they're on the train driving to work or, putting the kid after they put the kids to bed at night, whenever they can find you. And I laugh, Stephen. I mean, like the world needs another podcast. God knows everybody's got one, but I just threw my hat in the ring.
Right. It's interesting you said that. We're talking to the great Scott Van Pelt right here with Stephen A. on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News, because you give commentary on Sports Center as well. You don't just do a great job hosting it and doing interviews and going over highlights, but you also provide some commentary as well. I find that the commentary that I give on the radio, which basically comes extemporaneously. I mean, it comes off the cuff most of the time. I've known, you know the information and you just reacting to it, responding to it, and then you just spew your spiel on it. That actually helps me when I go on First Take. Do you anticipate that doing the podcast will make you even better, if that's imaginable, that it'll make you even better at hosting Sports Center once you get back into the world of audio?
I think so, and it's kind of you to say it. I mean, I think there's no question, Stephen A., that doing radio helped me figure out how to tighten up my chops on television, and then the ability to talk about them on television, and then think, okay, well, when I have room, then I'll take it back over to a place where I've got more room. I mean, all I did on my first podcast really was talk about the national title game, talk about Ed Ogeron, a guy that was laughed at. It was a punchline. People thought he was a clown. But, who's laughing now? He was the perfect guy at the perfect time. Right. And I took some of the elements of what happened on SportsCenter to the podcast. There's no question. And it doesn't surprise me to hear you say what you just said, that on radio, it helps you be better at First Take and vice versa. Look, we're all in the content business, and certain lanes require you to provide the content in a different way. And as I've said now several times, I missed the lane where I had all the room I wanted to go And it's my hope anyway that that's what happens, that people know what to get. They know what they're going to get from me in one space. Maybe they'll get something a little different in the podcast world. So that's my hope anyway.
The SV Pod. Scott Van Pelt's new podcast is now available. On his first episode, Scott hears from Tiger Woods, Matthew McConaughey, and Tony Kornheiser. Check out new episodes every Tuesday wherever you listen to his podcast, SV Pod. By the way, on another note, Sports Center. You've been doing it from Bristol all of these years. You moving to the nation's capital, my man. Tell us about that. I mean, there's Scott Van Pelt in the nation's capital. Why the nation's capital, Scott Van Pelt? And are we going to see anything different there than we've been seeing in Bristol all of these years?
Maybe. Look, you're from New York City, right? I mean, we know that. You're from Hollis, right?
Yes.
So when you can take things back from Bristol to where you're from, that's a beautiful thing to get back, because home's home. And I've said a million times, Stephen, we're all from somewhere. And that's where I'm from. I'm from, I say D.C., I'm just north of it in Maryland, but, to me, the DMV is all just kind of the same thing. And so, I asked our bosses if that would be a possibility, and they were very gracious to consider it. And so starting next year for football, we'll be back at home. We'll be doing things from there. And look, I'm a proud ESPN lifer, and I'm proud of Bristol, and it'll still be Bristol's the home base. But we don't get a chance to cross paths with as many people in Bristol as we can in Washington, D.C. Let's just be honest about that. There's more people who come through. And so my hope is that we can take advantage of who is in D.C. In terms of sitting down to be face-to-face with some of these athletes, where now we just simply don't have that opportunity. So my hope is that that will lend itself to more face-to-face time with these folks, because, as you know, those conversations are just better when you're face-to-face. And I just think the idea of being home, man, being close to family, that can only help, your soul, man, make you a happier human being. And so I'm really, really grateful that they were willing to give me that opportunity. And we're going to try to, continue to elevate and magnify the stories and try to lift them up and do it the way we do it.
Couldn't think of a better answer than that. We're talking to the great Scott Van Pelt right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's get into some of this sports business, because you've been all over it, as have I. This scandal involving the Houston Astros, ultimately their GM, their managers fired. Alex Cora was the bench coach for the 2017 World Series champion Houston Astros, and then was the manager for the 2018 World Series champion Boston Red Sox, has now been released. They say mutually agreed to part ways, but you listen to all the reports, and obviously he was on his way out the door because of this scandal. What do you make of this? How bad is all of this for the sport of baseball in your estimation, Scott?
Before we start, I just want to know when part ways became the new way we say you got your butt fired. Like, I mean, like, it's funny. It's kind of like it's a sanitized way to say you got to run. They fired him. Let's call it what it is. Right. But I honestly, I try not to overreact. Right. I pride myself on trying to take inventory and ask myself, how serious is this? I believe this. All right. I believe that if you organizationally were cheating, I think it's worse than PEDs. And I think it's worse than PEDs because it is a organizational commitment to cheating in a way that everyone in the game knows you shouldn't. If I can steal your signs when I'm on second base, that's on you. You need to do a better job with your signs. But if I'm using espionage, I'm using cameras and I'm banging on trash cans and everybody in the room is in on it, that's worse to me. And I find it so ridiculous that this sport, Stephen A., that polices itself and takes such pride on playing the right way. If a guy has the audacity not to run out a fly ball, people yell at him and say you shouldn't play that way. If a guy hits a home run and enjoys the view for a minute, right, they say he pimps it or Cadillacs it. They get mad at that guy. Well, hold on now. You got an entire organization using cameras and banging on trash cans to tell people what pitch is coming? That's garbage. That's not playing the right way. That's cheating. And I think it's worse than the idea of PEDs. I really do. And there's people that'll disagree, and that's fine. We can disagree. I'm just telling you how I see it. And so I believe that what baseball is doing and what the Red Sox chose to do and what Houston chose to do is what should be done. You have to send a message that if you're the manager and it happens on your watch, then you will pay, and you'll pay a steep price, because this cannot happen.
Did it catch your attention that no active players have been implicated in any of this when it's clear that they had to be complicit? After all, if you're pounding on trash cans to give them an indication as to what pitch is coming, they're obviously accepting that intel from you, yes, which to me would make them complicit. Fine. Did it strike you as a tad bit odd that we haven't heard from the commissioner or Major League Baseball office on player actions in all of this?
Here's what the analogy I made in our meeting the other night, and maybe this. I don't mean to be, flippant here, sure, but if there's back in the day in high school, if there was the word got out that so and so was having a party at their house, and it turned out that their parents knew, and then the cops came and busted up the party. Well, the cops were going to say to the parents, hold on now, you knew that your children were having a cake party in your backyard. It's the parents that would get in trouble because you're not going to arrest every single kid because there's too many kids involved. It feels like there's just too many players for them to police, and so you're going directly to the top, to the parents in this analogy, the GM and the manager, and saying you're the ones that are going to pay, and then that message will be disseminated down among the ranks of those people that were cheating, because it seems like it must just be too many people for them to corral. That's my only guess. But yes, it does seem odd, unless you just feel like, well, we can't get rid of an entire team for a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Scott Van Pelt, I'm looking at a guy like Pete Rose, who's been banned from baseball for life, gambling scandal. Yeah. We all know that story. I also recall the Black Sox scandal of 1919. It was a World Series involved there. When you think about the egregious things, or at least the things that Major League Baseball and avid lovers of Major League Baseball would find egregious to the nth degree, where should this fall in that line?
Man, I'm saying to you that I believe organization. It's as bad as anything because it was organizationally understood. Like you go back to the Black Sox, you're talking about a finite number of players that were allegedly involved. In Pete Rose's case, many times he's betting on himself. Now, we all know you're not supposed to bet in baseball. And we all know sign stealing's part of baseball. Tim Kirchin told me on SportsCenter last night he loves that part of the game when you're doing it the old-fashioned way. I'm just staring at you trying to figure out if I can pick something up. But when there's an arrogance, an organizational arrogance, Stephen A., that everybody said Houston had, the way they carried themselves as if they were above the fray, and then it turns out that they were all in on it and did nothing, then I would say that raises to a level of being as bad as anything that's happened because everyone is in on it. So when everyone's in on it, you tell me, what's the worst thing you can do? To me, it's that. It's as bad as anything that you could do. Now, this is where people will push back and say, well, everyone in baseball is doing it. Well, if everyone's in baseball is doing it, then baseball's got a real problem, and they have to sort that out.
Scott Van Pelt, before I let you get on out of here, I want to say this. I don't know too many people as compassionate as you are, particularly over the airwaves, considering the fact that Hinch, Ludenow, now Alex Cora have all lost their jobs, that Carlos Beltran could be the next one in line to suffer a similar consequence. Are you of the mindset that these individuals are finished in baseball, or do you believe in the land of second chances that indeed there may be one for these guys?
I am not the guy that said the cancel culture, as they call it in life. You make a mistake, and that means you're supposed to be done forever. I don't
neither am I.
I don't endorse that because we all make mistakes. I think what baseball did in suspending them for a year sent a strong message. I think what Crane, the owner, did was a real neat trick where he manages to come in and look real noble and wipes his hands of it. And really, $5 million to a billionaire it's nothing. I don't think he paid enough. But long answer to your question, yes, I think eventually these guys should have a path back with the clear understanding that what they did they can't do. But I'm with you on Pete Rose, man. I mean, I've said for years, like the guys like Bonds and Clemens and whatever else. How are we to take guys whose accomplishments were as great as they were and wrap them up and put them in a garbage bag and say they don't count? Baseball's fascinating that way, Stephen A. And I played it growing up, but I'm not one of the old school traditionalists that hangs on to all of these ideals because I think, they're horrible, rotten people. Ty Cobb was a racist. Where do we draw lines on what we police and what we don't? So I guess in the end, what I'm saying is I think these guys can have a path back. But I think it's very clear that baseball has said that there needs to be a penalty paid, and it's clear it's going to be steep.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is the host of his very own new podcast, the SV Pod. He is also ESPN's late night sports center anchor, one of the best to have ever done it. My buddy, the one and only Scott Van Pelt. You can check him out every weeknight, practically, as far as I'm concerned. Scott Van Pelt, appreciate you, love you, bro. Congratulations on everything. Keep marching forward, my man.
And you, Stephen A. You know I'm a big fan of yours, and you know all my respect, both publicly, privately. You know it's rooted in respect, and I send it right back your way, man. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, man. You take it easy. See you tonight. The one and only Scott Van Pelt right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News, 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. By the way, 2020 is going to be your year, right? Join that gym. Start that diet. Nah. How about getting out of that job and into a career? There are millions of unfilled cybersecurity positions in the U.S. right now, and My Computer Career is training people to fill them. No IT experience or education? No problem. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation today. You could start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. mycomputercareer.edu. Back with more of your calls in a minute.
This human resources professional is crushing it thanks to Kronos. And this is his hype song. You can fall back with the pack. I'm a leader pack.
I've got HR, payroll, talent, and time.
I'm on the top, I'm gonna rise up. Now we are
engaging all the best people.
Blast off to the front of the field. This is
Kronos. HR solutions for the modern workforce. Learn more at kronos.com/HR swagger.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. At Progressive, they're making things even easier. They'll help you bundle your home and car insurance together so you can save on both. Learn more at Progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Back to the phones we go at 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's get right to it. Let's go to Gary. You're live at Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A., thanks so much
Gary,
for taking my call. Also want to say great interview there with Scott Van Pelt. I watch him every night and also listen to you as often as I can during the day when I'm not required at work. But I am calling to talk about the Houston Astros. I think there is a way to attach the players, and that is to find every single player on the team 1 year's salary. Even if they get traded or they go somewhere else, it's 1 year's salary for each player. I think the titles have to be taken away.
Time out. Hold it. Whoa. Do you have any proof that those players that you want to find are involved? Are you talking about players who are discovered to have been complicit, or are you talking about just players across the board?
Well, everybody's banging the drum and everybody knows what's going on. I haven't seen where anybody said nobody on Houston was involved. I think it's player-wide. And if you're having trouble, if you suspend them, they lose the team for the following year. But if you find them in their pocket where it really hurts, everybody's negotiating for money. Everybody's negotiating for a contract. Or hit the players that are involved. I think everybody's involved myself. I think everybody knew exactly what was going on. One thing to touch on in the NFL that you talk about cheating with filming the signs that the Patriots did on the Cincinnati Bengals. In NFL, you have the coach talking to the quarterback up until maybe 8 to 10 seconds before they hike the ball. So that's a little bit different angle than what baseball is doing. I went to Game 7 of 2017. I'm a Dodgers season ticket holder, Angels season ticket holder.
I was there. I was there as well. I was there.
I saw you at the game. And the thing is we were sitting there saying they almost know what's coming. They almost know. And we don't even know the drums banging.
Darvish couldn't get anybody out. Darvish couldn't get anybody out.
Well, hey, absolutely. We're down 5-0 in the second inning. But here's the thing. When you say, why did Dave Roberts not know that the drum is banging? I don't know if you recognize the name Logan Morrison, but he did play for the Yankees after the Dodgers. And he came out yesterday and said the Dodgers and the Yankees both have issues with stealing signs. And here's a baseball player that came out and said that yesterday live. So he's saying if you're going to catch everybody...
Stop right there. What do you mean? What did they mean when they said both the Yankees and the Dodgers had issues with stealing signs? What exactly did you mean by that statement that you said they said?
If you want, I'll try to pull up what Logan Morrison. I'm reading from what Logan Morrison said.
No. I'm just asking you.
Dodgers.
What was your interpretation, sir? That's what I'm asking you. What was your interpretation of what they said?
Logan Morrison said if you're going to convict some of the people, you should convict them all. And he mentioned the Dodgers and the Yankees yesterday in an interview. And I can pull it up on my phone and read it to you, but it's available if you look it up. No. Logan Morrison.
I'll look it up. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it, Gary. Thank you so much. Jeff, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Yes. Thanks for taking my call. I find it hard to believe that, like the last caller said, that all the players on the team didn't know what was going on. And I feel your passion on your opening part, man. I was getting really ugly thinking about that. I think that the whole dangum team players should be suspended and bring up the brothers and sisters in AAA to come and take their place for minimum salary. I don't know. I'm just throwing something your way. Maybe some self-policing like golf, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know,
the problem with that. I think the problem with that. Is no way the Players Association is going to let you get away with that. No way the Players Association is going to let you get away with that. They'll fight to the death on that.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for the call. Having some technical difficulties here, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for the delays in the response. Usually it's quicker than that. Let's go to JP. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A. Thanks for taking my call. Much respect.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, wanted to just the players ruined the integrity of the game. You know, these guys were just flat cheating. Not just stealing signs or picking up a pitcher, maybe tipping his pitches, or, you know, these guys were using electronics. They were all involved. I played baseball. The team knows, hey, listen for this or watch for this. I just think there's something needs to be done with the players.
All right. Well, give me an example of what you think should be done. That's what I want to know.
You know, I don't know what you could do, but, you know, could you suspend them all? That means the Astros sit out a year, or the Red Sox sit out a year.
I don't know if you could pull it off. I will tell you this. I don't know if you could pull it off, but my boy Jeff Brown in California states that, you know what? I'd make them forfeit the first 50 games of the season. And I said, but what are you doing to the fans if you do that? You understand? They're not guilty of this. And that's where I draw the line. I don't think that you can punish the fans. But if there was a way to punish the team for 50 games, I would do it.
Yes, and, you know, it even goes deeper that you got maybe a young kid just came up into the league and he gets lit up by the Astros and he never gets a chance again. They send him down and he goes back to AA and, you know, you just never know what they have done by literally just flat cheating. You know, a catcher.
Well, you're looking at it that way. I'm looking at the fact. I'm looking at the fact that they won a championship this way. They won a championship this way.
Could be a lot of things that came from this, and it just I can't believe in Altuve, or, you know, you have a lot of respect for these guys, and just to cheat is not right. And 50 games.
You know what? I will tell you this. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this, JP? Listen, I love Altuve. He's my favorite Astro. But I tell you something right now. I would accuse him of being tipped off about Aroldis Chapman if Aroldis Chapman wasn't such an idiot throwing back-to-back 87-mile-per-hour sliders. For crying out loud. You ain't gotta be tipped off about Aroldis. You understand? It made the majors throwing heat and gonna show up throwing back-to-back 87-mile-per-hour sliders. I mean, that's just idiotic. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Phil. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Phil? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, man. What's going on, Stephen A., man? It's your boy Phil from Cincinnati, man. I'm in college a couple of times on the nonsense. about the Cincinnati Bengals winning the Super Bowl. You done cussed me out a couple of times, but I just called to show you love, man. I'm a driver for a living, man, and you get me through my day from 1 to 3, and I know I'm being selfish, man. I want you to stay, but I know you got, bigger obligations, and, congratulations to you, man. And one more thing, man. I need a favor.
Yep.
If tomorrow or Friday you could start the show off by saying, cut the damn music, I'm ticked off. That is my favorite thing, man. I mean, that's funny to me, man. But congratulations, man.
I got you. I'll try to remember.
Thing, big bro.
Yeah. Thank you, Larry. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you, Phil. Thanks so much, man. And my condolences for you being in that damn city of Cincinnati with that football team. But that's just me. Let's go to Josh. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Josh?
I want to piggyback off Phil, man. I love when you cut the damn music, especially when you go on your Knicks rant, because of that passion you have, just like that passion you bring to your job every day with work. And I just wanted to say this. I was thinking the same thing with the Scott Van Pelt interview about that podcast. And you love to talk extemporaneously, and that's why we love you so much. And it's going to be tough not to be able to get you to talk about something for 20, 30 minutes, and then you jump out after a commercial break and you got more to say about it. Where, I mean, we love you on First Take, but you can only talk so long with Matt Kellerman there and everybody else on the panel. So I just hope you consider what you said yesterday,
let me ask you this question,
man.
Josh.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question, Josh. You've been listening to me for a long time, have you not?
Yes, I have.
Huh? Do you really, really think I'm going to stop with just First Take? Stay tuned.
No, I think you'll be everywhere. But like I said, if you get on someone else's show, like if you get on Scott Van Pelt, he can only talk to you for 5 minutes. I want to hear you longer than 5 minutes because then you start really getting into it.
I'm not saying that's what I'm trying to say to you. Do you think I'm just going to stop there? Stay tuned. I got
okay.
You. I'm not going to disappear. I promise you that. All right? Thanks a lot, bro. Appreciate the love, man. Let's go to Nino. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Nino?
Hey, what's up, Stephen A.? First of all, I wanted to say good luck on all your...
You don't sound like a Nino Brown. You don't sound like a Nino Brown. You don't sound like a Nino Brown.
Well, listen, I've been trying to call you for the last couple of days because I heard that, this is your last week on the show, and you do a phenomenal job. Yeah. And even though I'm a diehard Dallas fan, I love you, and I like the fact that you keep it real, but that's another story. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk to you is the whole thing with this baseball scandal. Now, some of these players make $25, $30, $35 million a year. And, I'm a diehard Yankees fan. I bring my family there. And everyone's telling me, like, hey, you know what? Everyone's doing it. But the thing is, the fans didn't know that this was going on. Because, tell you the truth, if I knew that this was going on, I wouldn't even go. And the thing is, I knew that one of these days, technology and all the money that they make, it's all about wins and losses and how many people can go in there. I'm telling you, they're going to lose a lot of fans. And you know what? And if you have to get rid of all the players that were involved, they have AAA, AA, bring those guys up. They're not making all the $1 million. I just think whoever was involved, they should be fined, banned, whatever they need to do. I'm really ticked off. Because I spent a lot of good money to go see these games and to know that people were cheating and people have lost jobs and people have gained positions like Cora. Now that, he went to the Red Sox and everything.
Could you imagine how New York Yankee fans and Los Angeles Dodger fans are feeling right now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, 2017, we're one game away. And then, look at the Red Sox. They won in 2018. And to me, it doesn't matter if I'm a Yankees fan or you're a Red Sox fan. If you're a true heart baseball fan, like I am, I've been following baseball for over 40 years, that it doesn't matter who you like or hate.
How about sports, period? Integrity, man. Integrity.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. It's like at the end of the day, because they make so much money, integrity is out of there. There's no more self-pride. Why haven't any of the players be a man about it and just be like, you know what? Yes, we cheated, and I'm sorry, and we'll move on. I haven't heard anyone say that.
Hold on, Nino. That's fair. But you know what makes it bad about the managers? You ain't playing. It's your job to use your brains to facilitate success for your players. And you cut corners. You ain't out there. You ain't swinging that bat. I mean, that makes it even worse. For you to be somebody that ain't even playing, and the only thing you got to do is manage your ball club, and even then you cheating. It's just egregious, man. It really is. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Let's go. Let's go to break. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back with your phone calls to close out the show in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, it's time for some straight talk. The big wireless carriers try to wow you with big deals, but the savings are very little. With Straight Talk Wireless, you get the exact same networks as the big guys, but saving up to half the cost. Right now, you can get the unlimited plan with up to 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2G, for just $45 a month. No contract, no mystery fees, all with nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE network. Straight Talk Wireless, only at Walmart.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Protect your engine this winter. Use Pennzoil synthetic motor oil made from natural gas, not crude oil. Also, download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code ESPN25 at checkout to get 10% off your next order. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid seat. Back to the phones we go. Let's go to Katie. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Katie, go ahead.
Hey there. Actually kind of a first-time listener in the last couple of weeks. Sad to see you go. So what I wanted to ask you was, with everything that happened with the NFL, with the Patriots over the last couple of years, and now this big MLB thing coming out, you're saying you ain't swinging the bat, you ain't playing the ball, all you got to do is manage the club, and it's egregious for them to cheat in the MLB. So why is it not the same in the NFL? I know there's differentiation between the two types of cheating that happened, but you were calling for other, NFL coaches to emulate that kind of quote-unquote egregious behavior. But for the MLB, you want a harsher punishment.
Because they didn't bust Bill Belichick. My whole point is that this man has won 6 championships and has been to 9 Super Bowls. Now, if you're complaining once or twice, that's one thing. If you're complaining 6, 7, 8 different times, this man continues to win without you saying there's a definitive violation, then damn it, how come somebody hasn't figured out how to emulate him? Major League Baseball came down with a heavy hand. I said nothing until the MLB suspended them for a year and then explained why. And then in the aftermath, the owner fired them. In the case of Bill Belichick, Deflategate, nothing. This latest incident with the Cincinnati Bengals, still pending. We're waiting. My point is they've been complaining about this man since 2001. At some point in time, either catch him or emulate him. One or the other. You don't get to whine, moan, and complain about the dude, but leave him in the position, no punishment whatsoever, while he continues to hoist trophies. At some point in time, somebody got to figure something out.
Yeah, so, in your opinion...
That's my only issue.
You were the head of it. Would you come down harder on them then? Just for integrity's sake, for the sport's sake?
Hell yeah!
Being a coach, I hate
Hell
that.
Yeah! Okay, excuse me. You don't get to ask me a question and then answer it for me, my dear. You must let me answer it. Okay, thank you. If I'm the commissioner and I find evidence, I'm coming down just as hard as Manfred. But if I'm a coach and I see that they ain't coming down on Bill Belichick, well, damn it, I'm going to do it too. It's very simple. Yeah. But I thank you for the call. Call me back tomorrow when I have more time. Let's go to Alex real quick. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Stephen A., thanks for having me on. I'll get right to it. So you brought up a really good point. If we could suspend the Astros for 50 games to where they wouldn't play, that would be an ideal world, right? But you can't punish the fans. They're the least, they're the last people you want to punish. So why don't you punish the players? Shame the players to where they're not going to want to do this in the future. Anyone to take away their rings, make them turn in their rings, take the trophies away, find them respective, percentage of their earned salary, and then shame the players.
Yep.
Nobody's tuning in to see managers or execs. You can fire those.
I like that.
But I think that's the way to go. Fans aren't going to hurt that way.
Notice how nobody mentioned the players until I did, because that's what I've been talking about. They clearly were complicit. You're not banging a trash can unless the players are listening and following your instructions. They were complicit. Plain and simple. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Michael real quick. You only got about 30 seconds. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, Stephen A., I want to say that I agree with you completely on the Pete Rose idea here. If they're not going to come down harder on them than what they did and make an example to where other teams refuse to do it, then they need to lift the ban on Pete Rose today. They need to put him in the Hall of Fame this year. 100%.
Today. That's right.
I agree with it.
1,000% correct. And listen, Pete Rose ain't worse than this. The Black Sox scandal, although that was player, that's not a team manipulating things. It still manipulated a World Series. It compromised the integrity of the game. I think those rings should be confiscated from the players. I think that championship trophy should be confiscated from Houston Astros facilities today. Today. They should go to Houston and take it from them because they didn't earn it. Very simple to me. You don't hear anything about Pete Rose again either. I mean, what about this? Please. I'm out. Holla at y'all in